Hey guys, call to order. I know you're excited. Swampscott School Committee regular session, May 8th, 7 p.m. If all who can, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go into public comment, I just want to observe a moment of silence for Ted Angelakis, the father of our superintendent who recently passed. Do we have anybody for public comment? Okay. So with that, we're going to dive right into for the love of learning, and we're going to switch it up for Ms. Polizzotti. I'm so sorry. You just told me what it was, and I totally blanked it. And will you just tell us who you are and what you teach and...
Sure.
Dr. P. Dr. P. It's Dr. P. Dr. P. My apologies.
No problem. Hi, I'm Lindsay Polizzotti. I teach 7th grade science at Swampscott Middle School, and I am so proud and pleased to introduce you to 6 members of our composting club who have been instrumental in starting a composting program at the middle school and have dedicated a lot of time during lunchtime and advisory and even after school. So this is Eliza, Amelia, Sophia, Stella, Quinn, and Maya, and I'm going to let them tell you more about what they've been doing.
What if the world's soil ran out? Did you know that we only have 60 years of topsoil left if we keep using it at the rate at which we are, which is 10 to 40 times faster than it can be naturally replenished, and that it takes over 100 years to form a 1-inch layer of topsoil? This is what my classmates and I were studying while learning about soil and erosion. Our teacher, Dr. P, kept telling us that our generation was the one that had to make the change and that was going to feel the impact. Composting is just like recycling, but instead we recycle the nutrients back into the soil. A representative of Black Earth Composting came to talk to us more about what the company does and what composting is. Black Earth Compost Company collects compost from families and farmers and distribute it out to them if they want to make their own crops. This presentation helped us learn that we could make our own composting club at SMS.
So in order to maximize our productivity, our program, we decided to divide our members into 5 smaller subgroups: the logistics, data, education, community outreach, and social media groups. We've been meeting once a week, every week since January, to go over problems and make sure our program is running as planned.
The logistics group made posters to hang over the bins at lunch to make sure the sorting process went smoothly. They also created and adjusted the lunchtime routine when it didn't work out in the first week. They are responsible for communication with custodial and cafeteria staff to make sure that lunch runs smoothly.
The data group has been working on researching facts and statistics about the town's waste, collecting samples and data from the SMS lunchroom, and analyzing a survey that was put out to students at the middle school.
The education group uses the data to create lessons to teach all the middle schoolers how to sort properly at lunch. They also created hands-on activities to teach the preschoolers and involve them in our program.
The social media group has been working on creating and maintaining a website that records the progress of the groups throughout the months.
The community outreach group has had an information table at the STEM night and plans to have one at the farmers market and the Seaside Cooperative Garden. They've also presented at the faculty meeting and will be presenting at the town meeting later in the month. We had a fundraiser where we sold bags of compost to help raise money for our program.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's happening now at SMS. We had a goal to reduce the cafeteria waste by 40%, but we ended up reducing it by over 60%.
Wow.
Every week, we keep 320 gallons of compostable waste from landfills and incinerators. We decided that just the composting club monitoring the bins at lunch was not enough, so we had an idea to get the whole school involved. What we did was we had one homeroom in charge of that grade's lunch per week, and each student in that homeroom had to sign up for at least one day to help monitor the bins. We used to fill 6 of those black trash cans every day, and now we only fill 2 of them.
What we've been doing so far is just the tip of an iceberg. We hope to accomplish a lot more between now and the day we graduate from high school. Let me show you our vision and plan for the next couple of years. This year we were just getting started. We wanted to find a way to tell our community of what we've been doing and find a way to raise money for our program from outside sources. Next year, we hope to improve our program. We hope to receive support from our school and plan for expanding to other schools throughout our town. In 3 years, it's an exciting time for us 7th graders because we are going to be in the high school, where we hope to take our knowledge and start a composting club here at SHS. Also during this year, we hope that 1 out of the 3 elementary schools are composting. In 4 years, we hope that all schools are composting, and we hope to increase the public awareness by proving that it's not expensive to switch to composting, and it's way more better for the environment. Lastly, in 5 years, we hope that all schools and all households throughout our town are composting and reducing waste sent to landfills, and together we can truly be a greener and more sustainable community.
Our data group found some shocking facts about Swampscott. We found that we spend $1.3 million per year on waste pickup and disposal. We need a more price-efficient solution, and composting could be just that. We also found that 8.3 million pounds of waste sent from Swampscott to incinerators and landfills each year, which is contributing to major climate change and air pollution. And did you know that 30 to 50% of our waste could be composted and could be going back into our soil for better nutrients? The cost of 1 year of our composting group is $3,500, which is a small price for a huge difference. We have been funded by the Swampscott Education Foundation, DonorsChoose.org, the Swampscott Middle School PTO. We'd also like to thank Dr. P for creating such a sustainable and great program. We need your support to grow the composting program in the future and make our dream a reality.
I have to say, first of all, I'm so proud of your leadership. It speaks volumes, and this is true leadership, not only because you're getting something done, but because of what you're doing to involve everybody else. And I'm thrilled to hear that you're going to be speaking at town meeting, because I was thinking that would be something I could organize, but I don't have to now. My question is this an after-school club, or is this part of the program that Mr. Kalishman launched this year on the sort of Wednesday, the WIN block?
We choose if we want to go to this composting club, and it's usually at advisory. So we give up our advisory time, and Dr. P just started it, and we were all excited to go, and it's just every advisory whenever we have time, usually on Mondays. But.
And are you in Dr. P's homeroom, or what was your connection, and how did you
Yeah, so some of us are in Dr. P's homeroom, but there are a lot of other people who just come from other homerooms.
Anybody else?
I was going to ask, so right now you have to have people monitor the bins. Is that to make sure that they're putting the right things in the right bins? do you anticipate that that will be able to go away because people will learn and you won't have to have someone physically there? Is that like a hope, or do you think that's happening?
Yeah, our goal for the future is that we will eventually not need anyone to monitor the bins, but until then we will have people because they won't collect it if there is
Wrong thing.
contamination in the bins.
Right, okay. Is it getting better, like, as time?
Definitely, yes.
So,
What's the $3,500 go towards every year? Like, what are you paying for?
So we have a contract with Black Earth Compost to pick up on our school weeks. So that's $2,500. Another $1,000 went towards purchasing some bins that we needed and materials like grabbers to get things out of the bins if contaminants get in. Also liners to line bins. We also have a few smaller bins that are put in the teacher's room and in the preschool and other areas that we need to purchase
Do you
liners
have
for.
like a storage space outside, like? that
They
you-
get stored right outside the cafeteria under the little awning, and that's
oh,
where
like,
they pick
do
them
you
up
have
from.
to build something, like to put all, like, no? it
No.
doesn't-
Currently, we don't have our own bins. We're like borrowing them from Black Earth, so, but they worked out a nice deal with us to
That's
include
awesome.
it.
Well, you'll be happy to know, I'm on the school building committee for the new elementary school, and we've been visiting lots of new schools, and so many cafeterias that we see in the elementary schools have these awesome recycling areas. I mean, in the hallways, they have them for worksheets and paper and things like that, but in the cafeteria, they have these awesome recycling areas that looks like your picture, only very professional-looking bins and posters, and it's awesome because that's coming. It's great that you're starting this and everyone's going to be used to doing it. It's awesome.
Can I just ask, what was the reaction of your classmates when you guys instituted this at the lunchtime? Like, was there?
So at first, they weren't really sure that it was going to work, and they were kind of like, what are you doing? But then once we got into it, everyone kind of just went along, and it became like an everyday thing. And like it's just like you just sort your trash into different bins every day at lunch.
So 5th through 8th, or your grade?
Yeah, 5th through 8th, every single
Wow,
lunch
that's
period.
amazing. And did you give a presentation to them?
Yeah, we made lessons and activities for them. Like we printed out little pieces of paper that had different different materials, and we gave them out, and they had to sort them. And we also did it with the preschool, so that they can bring it up as well.
That's awesome.
your leadership is inspiring.
Is the
Somebody's-
$3,500 going to help you with the year after, like, spreading this to the other schools, or is that, like, did you account for that in your?
So we have not accounted for the cost or budgeted for how much it would be to scale up to the other schools. That's for the middle school, what it costs for year one.
Okay.
To go to the other schools, my guess is you're probably looking at a similar price for the high school because similar number of students. Elementary probably a little less, but we could get quotes from Black Earth, and there's some initial costs with getting bins and things that you need for the building, but that's more of a one-time cost.
So SEF already funded you for
They funded
year.
us, we started in March, and we're funded through March of next year for one calendar year.
Thank you.
I have a question about, I'm assuming that you're working with the town as well, because this is representing a huge chunk of not paying to go to, what we're not paying in trash fees.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they can actually measure the difference because they don't do the middle schools and the schools separate from the rest of the town. I'm not sure if just the middle schools would end up in a difference in the weight of the truck that's measurable yet.
Okay.
But if everyone were doing it, certainly would make a huge difference. 50% of our waste was going into compost.
It's amazing.
Great job speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, great job, guys.
Really,
Thank you.
very much.
Good stuff happening.
Dr. P, I didn't realize that you were the Dr. P until Ms. Cooper said that. Your name precedes you.
Thank you. All right, I'll just close this down.
And next up, we have the NAEA conference presentation summary. coming from Mr. Doulette's team.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you for letting me present. It's not
it's
going to be.
you, okay, I
It's
thought-
me. I'm over here. You guys can see it over here. This won't be quite as fun as composting. And it's about assessment, which isn't as fun. But I wanted to just go over the presentation that I made at NAEA and just kind of suggest it as another model, which is what it was at NAEA. I had put in for a grant to the Swampscott Education Foundation, which they funded for me to attend the conference. I've attended the conference pretty regularly in my different positions. So that was this past March, and I also, given the professional development days from the high school, was fantastic to be able to go, along with a lot of the other art teachers from the district. So the presentation that I submitted, I was there for two reasons. One, to make this presentation, and two, to meet with a group of authors of an upcoming book on assessment in the arts. I'm doing a chapter for that book as well. So it was a great opportunity to meet up with this group. And this was the presentation about assessment in the film class. So I teach two classes. One is a TV studio production class, which I run more like a vocational class. And then the film class is more kind of strictly arts-based focused. And I co-presented with Lois Hetland, who is an art education professor at Mass Art. So I'm going to just kind of quickly go through the introduction that I gave, hopefully get you guys a chance to understand what the assessment is, and then see if you have any questions about it. This just kind of documents the different places where I've taught art, and the public school was the biggest change for me because it's where I first had to give grades. So I was teaching for over 20 years, and then I came to the public schools, and all of a sudden I had to have this assessment model with grades and have a philosophy behind that, so it was quite a shift. I was immediately immersed into a program at Salem State to get my MAT, and we developed curriculum using the state standards and developed rubrics and had minimal conversation because the Salem State program was much more practical than it was philosophical. It was super helpful, and it helped me really get through understanding how to approach these short form classes and have a really organized curriculum. But I was still struggling with assessment. It wasn't something that I really understood. It wasn't something that I really felt comfortable with yet. But jumping into the school system here, I set up a report card and assignments which were very much based on projects. So here's your project, get it in, I'll grade it. Here's your project, get it in, I'll grade it. And you guys are familiar with Aspen. Across the top are the grades, and down below are the various assignments. So, Isaac, I think this was you. I didn't know you'd be here.
This is in fall 2017, and I didn't take your class then, so it can't be me.
He's not owning it.
And this isn't a criticism. This was like eye-opening to me. This was like, okay,
So
what
it
is
must
it
have been
about?
Isaac Dreeben or someone else.
So, and I was struggling. Because I was trying to figure out how to keep the class engaging and fun, but how to make it be serious, something serious, that the students could really kind of get something at their core. So as I was approaching my last semester at Salem State, one of the last classes I needed to take was an assessment class, and the only class that they offered was general education because they didn't have an arts-based assessment class. And I knew Lois Hetland from her book Studio Thinking, which really focuses on studio habits that all artists go through. And I asked Salem State and her if she would do a directed study with me, which she did. So for several months, I would go into Mass Art and just spend a few hours with her, just discussing different ways to approach working with students in an arts-based curriculum. And so I don't know if you're familiar with the Studio Habits of Mind, but basically what she did a study, and she came up with these 8 studio habits of artists, and her philosophy, her approach was that if we focused on this, if we focused on these habits, reflect, stretch and explore, express, develop craft, envision, understand arts community, observe, engage, and persist, that we're really getting at the learning that the student is going through as an artist, if we can focus on that part of whatever the assignment is. So just as an example, a student could be really good at developing craft, could be really good at working a camera, but isn't as good at coming up with ideas. So when you start to understand that, you can say to the student, well, I think the part that you might need to work on more is envision. So how can we kind of push you in a direction where you're learning how to develop that habit of yours? So to make a long story short, over the course of this 4 or 5 months, I suggested to Lois, because I was still struggling, and I figured out today that every 18 days we have to submit grades, whether it's progress grades or term grades. And it's like every 18 days we have to think about, our philosophy and practice in this. So I went through a couple of grade cycles with her, and finally, through conversation, I was like, well, what if the grade was the habit? What if I gave a kid a grade in reflect, a grade in stretch and explore, a grade in express? And then it's not about the assignment, but it's about the habit and their ability to develop that habit. She's like, well, no one's ever used these habits for that purpose, but why not? So I did. The kids were confused. I put it into the syllabus that the grades are going to be based on the studio habits, and you're going to see that across your report card. And then that'll allow us to have conversations about how you're developing as an artist. And I started to feel a little bit more comfortable with the conversations I was having with kids after the grades came out, because they would say, Mr. Doolett, I got a B or something in express. I said, yeah, let's talk about what that means. Like you're able to get to the point where you have an idea, but you can't quite get it across yet in the camera. So, how can you develop that specific skill? You can't read this. I did pass this out to you guys so you could see, but the studio habits are on the left, and over the course of the years, Lois has developed some subsets of some of the larger habits. The general skill is just how it could apply to any art form, and then I filled in the right with the skills that are specific to the film class. So if you break one of those down, like express, the general skill is learning how to create a work that goes beyond craft to convey meaning and feeling, literal and metaphorical, and my interpretation of that is generating characters and stories that have literal and metaphorical meaning, creating specific emotions and meaning through camera shots, pacing of editing, juxtaposition, layering of imagery and sound. So that's how you can use your tool to be expressive as opposed to just knowing how to operate a camera. And again, this is a presentation that I was making to art educators at NAEA, and I started the presentation by admitting that I was a new grader. I'm not saying that this is anything really tried and true, but it's something that I'm experimenting with. And I'm not saying that this is better than a different way of assessment, because I didn't want to present myself as somebody who's saying, well, the old way is wrong, we all got to do it this way. And there's a couple of funny comments at the end of this which will show that I kind of hit some nerves. So there was one student who came into the class early on when I started using this, and he said, Mr. Doolett, I want to dump your class because I'm going to get an F. And I was like, why are you going to get an F in my class? He says, because I haven't passed anything in. I was like, it doesn't matter in my class. It's not about passing in the assignment. It's about how are your habits developing. And I know that the script writing for you is really hard. So I developed this calendar which showed that over the course of, you can see in Project 2, there's concept development, and a lot of that is envisioning. So you're envisioning over that 6 weeks, and that's going to be hard for you. So I know that I'm going to have to support you through that intensely. But when we get past that, we're going to be into expressing. That's when you're on the camera and you're really working. So just if you can hold your breath, if you can dig in, you're going to get through this. So this calendar now I present to the students. This would be like one element that I would grade on a 3-point scale. So concept development is this element, and these are all the things that I look for in concept development. So completing the assigned work. And then if you look across to the right, the studio habit that lines up with is engage and persist. So every one of these little elements, I won't go through all of them, is what I think is the important part of that assignment and what habit it relates to. And then I use this 3-point scale. 2 is they did kind of what I asked or what I'm teaching. 3 is they really went beyond. It seems like they have like a knack for this. And 1 is they started, but they didn't show a lot of effort. And then if they just didn't do it, there is a pre-engagement, but there's so many opportunities to jump in on all the different habits that even if you got like a 0 in 3 of the habits, you could still end up with a B or a C, and that's what the student kind of recognized was that, yeah, you didn't engage and persist on a lot of levels, but your expression, your envisioning, your editing ability, it's unbelievable, and those habits are your strengths. Let me just skip through this. I presented this because I wanted people in the audience to know that I still do kind of formative assessment that's technical, but they don't get grades for it. So if you see on the right, there's an audio equipment and recording assessment quiz that they have to take. They can take it as many times as they want, and it's really just for us to understand where their technical skills are are needing some support, but they don't get grades for those. At the end of the semester, they get or a quarter, they'll get this, they'll see this. So each student gets a spreadsheet, and it shows how they did in each of the habits, and then it breaks it down by assignment for them if they want to look at it that way. But their grade is really the sum of those numbers. So they can see, like this student here, their greatest strength is the art worlds, understanding art worlds. And how that might play out in the class is that they're really good on crew. They're really good at helping each other. They really understand this is a team effort. But in something like Envision, they were a little bit lower. They might have a hard time coming up with ideas. And so that can be a conversation between me and the students. Like it seems like you need a little bit of help in that. So now the new report card looks like this. So you get an A- in Engage and Persist. You get a B+ in Develop, Craft, Studio Practice. And then we can have a conversation about how you want to change your habits for the next quarter, the next progress session. And I've invited students to come to me if they want to talk about it, have their parents talk to me. No parents really called me on this, so I was wondering, like, if I saw this as a parent, I'm like, what the heck is this guy talking about? But it did generate some really nice conversations with students. This slide is just showing that it allows me to see where, if I look at that far right circle, understanding art world domain, that was the lowest grade in my class. So for me, I'm realizing that I'm not getting across the idea that, the cinematographer position in the art world is something that, can be reflected on. You are part of this art world, and the area that you want to kind of jump into, there's a larger world of people, so that's something you can explore. So this is helping me kind of reflect and move on in my practice. So after the session, there's a rating, and I thought this one was really kind of hit it. It's pretty fun to read. I got good ratings. I got 4.3 out of 5 on most of them, but the ones that are critical, I think, are the ones that are most helpful. So I missed the mark. And then this one came later. There was a forum on NAEA's website, and this was a teacher from the North Shore who I didn't even meet her, but she wrote about this in a forum. And this really struck a nerve with her. She really liked the idea of looking at the artistic habits. SHAM means studio habits of mind. And really thinking about the artistic practices as opposed to the assignments. So in the end, what this is making me wonder is, do I care as much about the work being good? It's like, yeah, I want good work, but at the same time, I don't want that to be the reason why they get a good grade. It's seeming to me that the students are understanding that there's a process here, and there are habits that the students should engage in and improve in. They also want to make good work, but they also are kind of being told by me that you need to focus on specific habits to make the work better. And then for me, I'm feeling more comfortable and confident in my assessment. It's a heck of a lot of work, as what I'm realizing. Each one of these pages for each one of these kids is just way too much work, but I think it'll start to get simpler as I go. The other reason I was at the conference is because of my work with Lois. She's like this rock star in the art ed world. And so a lot of people came to this session because her name was on it. So it was like 150 people at this session, which she also hooked me up with these two people who've been writing a book on assessment for a long time. And I guess from what I found out is that it's somewhat subversive. And my presentation was somewhat subversive because there's this idea from the NAEA that standards should be the thing that control assessment. And you should be looking at the standards, and that should be how you design, how you assess the students' work. And there's a whole equal number of people who feel that that's not authentic. It should be about other things. Standards can be part of it, but that shouldn't be the end all. So this book is teachers and students writing about their assessment practices, and that being released at NAEA. And I guess for a while the NAEA didn't want this book released, but through conversation negotiation, this book is being released, and my approach is going to be one of the chapters as an option for people to use as assessment. They're going to release the book at the next annual conference in Minneapolis in 2020, and they're going to have a super session with the authors of the chapters. So my goal is to be there and see what happens with that. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I know it was a lot.
Fabulous.
Yeah, Isaac. Does anyone take my class seriously?
You said that you don't count those as grades, but I just received a notification for one of those formal quizzes that you gave.
Yes.
And I didn't do it.
Yes, it's the TV studio production class that you're in.
Yes.
And I am using that, I am using those quizzes as grades in that class.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm going to transition this over to the TV class, because I see that more as a vocational class.
I'm gonna do the quiz. I just
No.
I had the AP test. I didn't receive the note for it, but maybe transitioning could be a good idea.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about it, because I think, I was talking with Kavan, who's in the back there, and just kind of trying to figure out what his take was on this, because he went through this once and how it helped him in it, but.
It seems like that the class that's more vocational is definitely more objective,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Like,
It's
it lends
skills-based.
itself more to standards or.
Yes.
Or that. And I agree with you, evaluating art is so subjective, and it's like nice that you feel comfortable breaking down behaviors into these 8 categories, because they're awesome, because every student can find success in one of them, for sure.
Yeah.
I think what's exciting about it is, having taken a lot of art classes over the years, that it's sort of easy sometimes for a student to say, oh, they just don't like me, or they don't like my artwork, or nobody understands me, especially when you're, in the brooding of artwork.
Yes.
So to be able to see skill, not so much skills like artistic skills, but things that apply to so much more than just artwork is so, it makes it so, it probably doesn't feel good in the moment if you're not doing well,
Yeah.
but at least it's not as subjective as like, he just doesn't like me,
Or my work
you know,
stinks, or whatever,
they
yeah.
don't understand what I'm trying to do.
And I think at some point, the art needs to speak for itself. But I think this approach is, in high school, it's not necessarily, that's not necessarily the goal here, is to have you make the best piece of art. It's for you to understand what being an artist is about and start to develop those habits so that you can get to the point where you're consistently making art, and improving yourself.
Because at this age, right, so not everybody that takes your class is necessarily going to be an artist or want to be an artist, right? But the point is to grow and try new things and expand. So I think it sounds like it makes a lot of sense.
I can't believe how much work it is, though.
I know, it's
Yeah, that looks like a lot of work.
Yeah.
That spreadsheet was
You have 8
insane.
scores for every.
For every assignment, there's
Everything you do,
there's
yeah.
8 elements, and then there
Right.
could be anywhere from 10 to 20 things that I'm,
Right, like
Yeah.
that's
It's
just.
That's a
very
lot of
complicated.
observation
it
on
is.
your part.
It
It's
is.
also fascinating to hear it coming from an artist who probably by nature, it's very left brain, right brain. So a lot of kudos to you for
Yeah, trying to
devising
make your
this.
left brain function like
Yeah.
your right brain.
Yeah, I think if anyone, the book Studio Thinking is fascinating to read, just to kind of understand where the philosophy came from. And she's developing, I think she's releasing another book now for elementary school level, so that, it simplifies it a little bit, but it uses the same
It's
philosophy.
a really nice idea for a lot of different kinds of curriculum,
Yes,
actually.
yes.
I mean, it makes sense so much in some of the
Think about
higher level
sports.
classes where everyone is sort of just as strong academically, but suffer from some of these other, I don't know, it's like a nice way to evaluate a lot of skills, actually.
And it really allows you a chance to focus on a strength at the same time that you're trying to focus on an area that they need to grow. And so those conversations just feel better.
Yeah, because giving kids A's because they're turning in papers and they're great doesn't really differentiate every kid from each other, and every A is so different.
Right.
Like, yeah,
Joe, I gotta tell my mom
I
this.
like your engage and persist. That's great. That's a
Yeah.
life skill.
That's a hard one. I mean, every assignment has
Something that
that
can
like
help
3 or 4 times in
Anywhere
it.
in your
so,
life.
Yeah.
And you could probably see in this
crazy, like.
here, engage and persist is throughout.
Is right. But that's
doesn't
good.
end.
That's a huge message
Yeah.
that they're
You
getting.
got to keep doing it.
Great.
So.
I have to tell my mom this story because growing up in India, she was kicked out of her art class because she wasn't able to draw a banana. And she tells us the story all the time, and it's just like we've come so long. It's like such
That's sad.
a well-educated woman.
Genius.
But yeah,
But her
Well,
artistic
her
side was
artistic
thwarted.
side was thwarted by her art teacher who kicked her out of class. So
Well, thank you for letting me
thank
present.
you.
Appreciate
This is
it.
great. Thank you very much.
No, we're going to do that now. All right, so we're going to do community announcements, and I'm going to start down there with you.
All right. Well, I actually do have some community announcements today. The first one is, I actually failed to mention this at a lot of meetings, but I was finally reminded by it last week when I was marked late because of this. In the first floor bathroom, in the boys' bathroom, there has not been a door on one of the stalls for half the year, pretty long time, you know, I'd say, right? And I was marked late because of it, because another student was using the other stall and I had to wait, and it was annoying. So if you could get that fixed, I think it'd be a good start. I'm not sure who's in charge of that, but as long as it gets passed down, I'm sure it will happen.
Duly noted.
Yeah. AP test just happened. Personally, the one I just took, my college won't even use it as credit. So that's part of the AP, like I realize we're required to take it for the credit, but I feel like for seniors to some extent, if your college isn't going to accept it as credit, maybe there should be some leeway in whether you have to take it or not. Because you kind of like lose incentive to really want to study for it when it doesn't count.
Which one was that?
It was the AP Lit. I already took the AP Lang one and I did well on it, so I already used that as credit. And the school I know some schools accept 2, but for most of them they only accept 1 English and 1 history one. So I just feel that maybe seniors should at least have that option to not take it, because I'd love to take the course, but maybe not the test, especially if the school doesn't, you know, my school won't
It's not
accept
being
it.
valued.
Yeah, and then I don't have to pay for the test as well.
But when would you know that by?
When I know whether the school like accepts it or not.
When do you have to take the decision to take the test, or you're
The
taking
AP
the
test?
If you
You have to take the test, right?
Yeah, you have to take it to get credit for the class. Like,
No, but when do
Swampscott
you
required-
make the decision?
Yeah.
Oh,
When do you
to
pay
pay
for it
for
and
it,
like register for it?
they were letting people sign up for it like three weeks ago. Like, there's ample time.
There's ample
that-
time to
So
not take
everyone
it.
knows
Not
where they're
take
going to,
it.
everyone
you
knows
know
where they're
your
going to
school
school by
and-
that
Yeah,
time.
by then most people know, because most of the decisions are out by May 1st, and they still let you pay for it by then.
Have you guys talked about this at all with Mr. Murphy and Mr. Cohet, or?
It was more this year as I was taking it, I was really thinking about it. On one of my essays, I was just like taking a little break and I was like, wow, I don't know why I'm taking this if I can't use it as credit. But I think I will discuss it. I didn't know that it was their choice. I thought it was more a school committee thing, so that's why I was speaking about it here. But I think it's definitely something bringing up.
It was the previous administration's recommendation that this is what we do if the students take the class, that we require them to take the exam, but you've brought a whole new perspective to it. So I say, you bring it to the administrators, you brought it to our attention, and we'll discuss it. I think
Alright.
you're bringing a valid point,
Yeah.
you know, on the cost, the motivation.
The motivation's huge.
I think those are both important factors.
I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, we sat here as the principal at that time said that the new standard was that everybody would be taking the exam. And so that's not a decision that we make, but you know, supported because that's what the leadership recommended. So, you know, I think it's a great conversation to have.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isaac.
Joe?
Well, I don't have any like topics like that to talk about, but I just wanted to say thank you to everyone here for allowing Isaac and I to be able to sit here and listen in on something that many other kids don't get the opportunity to be able to hear. A lot of the things that I talked about here, many of the teachers, many of the people in the school and themselves don't even get to hear this stuff. So it's pretty awesome to know like what's going on in our town, like to be so involved as kids, like that we don't get a vote, which Isaac and I were talking about earlier. Maybe we should get a vote, but
I don't even get a vote.
Bag one of sorts.
yeah, but yeah, it's been a great opportunity. So I just want to say thank you so much to everyone, and yeah.
Well, we appreciate your being
Actually, something
here.
to add real quick. So for the driver's education here, I'm not sure how much of that money goes to the school, but none of it.
It's
already-
a self-sustaining program.
Well, they would do a lot better if they were able to test, like, give people
Oh,
tests,
driving
because
tests,
they
yeah.
lose so much money to Marblehead School of auto because they're not able to, like, administer a driving test.
That's something to
I'm
consider.
not sure how they go about fixing
I'm
that.
surprised
but-
neither of you brought up what tomorrow is at the high school. Tomorrow's a very special day at the high school, isn't it?
I actually have.
Phone-free day?
Oh,
Oh,
phone
phone
free day.
free
I
day.
think
Yes.
personally
Read my
it's too
email,
late for
thank
that.
you.
I think we
in
should
the
do it
year.
next year.
I feel like if we started it in the beginning of this year, it would have done a lot better.
Yeah.
I think it's so close to the end of school that I don't know if we're going to get full participation, but I'm looking forward to it. It won't be that hard for me because I don't really
I
have any
AP
data.
exam tomorrow anyway.
He has AP exam, so
not
I'm curious to see, hear, you know, how the day goes and if teachers and students feel more stress-free. And I mean, I think it would be hard for me to do that, but I'd be willing to try.
In terms of that composting thing, by the way, we should do that.
But they're gonna bring it to
They're
the high
gonna bring
school,
it to the
right?
high school.
So
That's-
how are we
that's
gonna
neat.
log the phone free day and actually see if we're getting?
I have no idea. They're
There's
gonna
an
get
app for that.
There's an app.
Kidding.
I don't know, but I was excited to read that communication from Mr. Murphy, and I hope it said something about you get a sticker if you're participating.
Like I voted.
Yeah, kind of like, so I'm excited to see how that goes, but yeah. Well, we've enjoyed having you both here, and I think that probably leads into before you can, you want to jump and do
We'll
that?
just jump in now.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to community
We'll come back to
announcement.
community announcements, but, so this is for the two of you. You ready? So should I put my jacket on?
Yes, put your jacket
This
on.
is a,
You have to come to the podium too,
Oh, we
because
get to the podium. I like to
there's a
move.
present for you too.
We should have presented something.
put my jacket on. So these are for the two of you. The Swampscott School Committee presents this certificate of recognition to the Swampscott High School student Isaac Green and Joe Varghese for their dedicated and professional service as a student representative to the school committee for the 2018-19 school year. We wish you the best of luck in all of your future accomplishments. I want to say I appreciate you holding my feet to the fire. That's great. Having the two of you respond so honestly and earnestly is really a benefit for all of us. And we'll think about adding a voting role in there.
Voting rights.
So I'll give each one of you this. That's Isaac.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And give a little gift.
Where should we? One on each side.
You guys all want to come in? I mean, it's really fun.
Yeah.
The school
The
committee.
school committee should go up there. It's great. Yeah, school committee should go up.
Ready?
Really.
1, 2, 3, one more.
All righty. Pam, you should go up there. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Good job.
No, I'm good. All right. Just saying.
Great job this year.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
I want to thank the committee, Mr. Doolette,
Staying for their last
everybody
meeting.
filming, Kavan,
Should I start playing you off?
Julio, Vlad, computers, everybody for having us. It's going to be a great next year. The audience, there's usually not an audience here. Most people leave after the first 15 minutes. But everyone who's been here the whole time, the whole year, thank you for your hard work. It's why we do it. Also, shout out to the superintendent. I think the AP thing that I brought up is really important, and everyone will be behind that. So that's also great. The College Board is evil. Let's be real, they are. But it is. But let's get to the next year.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, okay. Gargi,
Yeah, what?
any public comments?
Public comment today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you, Karen.
Congratulations, I
and-
voted too.
And I just want to say congratulations to Ms. Zoll. I mean, I think she really did a nice job on her platform, and we need residents like her to kind of step up and get involved in our community. So I hope we'll be seeing more of her and in the community. But yeah, congratulations. Thanks. You're welcome.
Ted?
Oh, I thought you were working down the line
I
here.
know, you're
You're
jumping.
coming back to me at the end.
I would echo what Gargi said on the congrats to Amy and Karen and to Ms. Zoll on her campaign. And I'd also just like to say that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. So, Mr. Green, you're in charge of that up here tomorrow. We'll give you a couple of stickers if you help us out, but
All
make
right,
sure
sounds
you
good.
show a little love
I can
to
do
the
that.
teachers. That's all.
I was going to congratulate you guys as well, and everyone else is saying it, so.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm happy to still be here. And thank you to everyone who supported me, and I'm so happy to still be working with you guys. I respect everybody at this table so much, and also wanted to take a minute to give a shout out to my husband, who was hugely supportive and kept me sane, and it's a stressful thing, so, and he was fantastic, so.
Well, I'm going to stay on that theme, and and say that I'm really grateful to have been reelected, along with my partner Karen. It really means the world to me to be able to continue what I think is a really cohesive and strong school committee with the ultimate goal of supporting our superintendent. I think that's what is, you know, data shows that this is what creates a strong district, so I'm really pleased that we are able to maintain this. I also want to say thank you to Ms. Zoll. She ran a really good campaign. You know, our last campaign was not contested, but our first campaign, we both ran a contested election. It might be one of the hardest things I've ever done, especially in a small community. It's hard to separate politics from friendships. There was a lot of bad behavior, but I'll say there was a lot of really supportive and gratifying phone calls that I received. So I really appreciate my townsfolk for supporting me. And I really appreciate that Ms. Zoll kept stuck to the issues. And to your point, I think is very smart and holds a lot of really good ideas. So I know that there'll be a lot to do. So with that, the only other thing that I wanted to do was give a shout out to Zach Hankins, who's back there in the booth, I think, who I've known since he was a wee baby. And I'm so proud of him and your group for doing what you do. You look at it as a technical skill, but I think it's so beyond that, in terms of being in your studio and watching how you guys engage with one another. It makes me really proud to say that that's part of our district. So there's that. So with that, we're going to move into the superintendent's report.
All right. I want to take a quick moment to try not to get emotional and just thank the committee for your support, flexibility, and understanding. The last couple of months have been personally very difficult, and I couldn't have done it without your support, so thank you for that. I do want to take something out of order, and I want to talk about the calendar, which is actually letter E. The proposed changes, it's in your packet. It's not necessarily in my superintendent's report, but I'd like to revisit that calendar for the 1920 school year. I need to find it in my packet. So it is in the Dropbox folder, and there are several changes that need to be made. So you've already voted on the calendar. We had a first read, we had a vote on it, and now I am proposing some changes to it. There's basically three changes. One is a result of a middle school change that was requested by Principal Kalishman and Mrs. Sanborn, and that is because there was overwhelming teacher support for 2 night conferences in January for report cards for parent conferences, and that was very recently voted on by the middle school staff. So that is a change that will occur. The conferences have been moved from December, which is a very busy month for all families, to January. And it would be January 23rd, that is a parent conference, 1 to 4 and 6 to 8. January 28th, 1 to 4. And January 30th, 1 to 4 and 6 to 8 as well. The other change that was made is the early release day for February. Several years ago, when Lois Longan called together a calendar committee, it was a request of that calendar committee that was made up of teachers to have an early release day, bless you, on Valentine's Day, in particular at the younger grades in the elementary schools because of the parties. So we stayed with that date and just have continued to move it each year. This particular date would fall on the Friday before February vacation, and we had some feedback, a lot of feedback from teachers that just said they didn't think it would be conducive, so we're moving it back to February 13th, which is a Thursday, when we've consistently had our professional development days. And the most notable change is we're going to add back in the second day of the Rosh Hashanah holiday for October 1st, We had, in the past, our district had honored these 2 days, and each year that they occurred, I received a lot of feedback from the community and the Jewish community that for those holidays, observances, the first day was the most important, and they were moving away from the 2-day observance. So we recommended the 1 day, but in the last several days, I would say that both Amy and myself have received several thoughtful emails with the community asking us to continue to honor the 2-day observance until changes are made within the community, the religious community. So it is our recommendation to have both the September 30th and October 1st now as the 2 days to observe the Rosh Hashanah holiday. So those are the changes, and with those changes, that would bring our last day of school, the last 2 days would be June 15th and 16th, or with snow days, June 22nd and 23rd, which if you recall, those are early release days, and that has happened in the past. So there are some substantive changes to this recommended calendar, and I would ask for a revote on this, but I also welcome any other comments and communications that maybe anybody else received on the committee.
I just want to add to it that I did, as a school committee, we received a lot of feedback, a number of emails and some phone calls, and I know I personally received one, including from the president of Shirat Hayam, and we obviously take that very seriously, and really it's important that we listen to the community. So it only made sense for us to honor this and to go back to what we had been doing all along. So I particularly want to thank the people who reached out to us because it created some really good dialogue, and it was a good thing.
May I ask a question? Is there a way when we review the calendar for us to see, like, what, I mean, the changes are made by the leadership, but when we're looking at it, I mean, I'm not remembering the last one. I guess I can go through and look through everyone, but if there's like major changes, like the change in the name of a holiday, or deleting a holiday, or
Yep, they
the
should be
like, is
highlighted.
there a way to highlight it
Sure.
so the committee is aware of
Yeah,
them?
the
So
same
we're,
way I just did now with the changes.
Yes.
We could do the same
that would
thing.
be, just so we're.
No excuse for it, but this was happening at a time when I know I had overlooked some things in the middle of our election, and with Pam out of the office, we were not communicating that often about things that about business.
Not
So-
but just for next
so, yeah,
time.
it makes
So we're
sense.
aware.
Yeah, definitely.
So
does.
apologies to anybody in the community that we offended by this. We're happy to set it straight.
Does it make sense to bring back the calendar committee? Was that helpful? I mean,
It is being talked about.
Okay.
I would say that.
it seems like when that was there, we got like a more comprehensive report on why they did this and why they
Yeah,
did that, and how
that's-
that decision was made. But I don't know if that's conducive to how things work.
It's being considered.
Okay.
So I would ask for a vote, even though a revote, I guess, on the amended calendar for the 2019-2020 school year.
All right, so I will entertain I will entertain a motion to approve the edits made to the 2019-2020 calendar.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just as we're looking at it, October 9th, just on the revised school committee dates, we're scheduled to meet, and it's Yom Kippur, so maybe we could adjust that on our dates, but it is part of the calendar that we're meeting.
When we get to the school committee dates, yeah.
Yeah, well, when we redo the school committee dates in August, we'll definitely
Okay.
look at that. Thank you, I appreciate that. So all in favor? The vote's unanimous. Do you guys have a provisional vote?
Count as one vote.
Okay.
Honorary vote.
Honorary vote.
Nice.
The vote passes.
Thank you. I'll jump back up to my superintendent's report, and this superintendent's report today is all personnel announcements. And so first, I want to announce that this is a little bit delayed, as everything seems to have been, but I'm pleased to announce that I've appointed Ms. Jean Bacon as the next Director of Teaching and Learning, who will begin with us on July 1st. The position was formerly known as our Director of Curriculum Instruction, and it's the position that's been vacant since November of 2018. It is not a new position, it is just renamed. So Ms. Bacon is a 27-year educator from Western Massachusetts and Vermont. She served as principal of Pioneer Valley Regional School District in Northfield, Massachusetts since 2016. She served as an administrator for teaching and learning in North Adams from 2004 to 2016. She also taught math and science in North Adams. She was also an assistant professor of sociology at Williams College from 1992 to 2001. In her role, her primary focus will be the K-12 curriculum, ensuring it's aligned with the Massachusetts frameworks, our programs, our curriculum reviews, and she'll oversee professional development. She brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to the position, and she truly believes in the collaborative approach that will serve her well in our district. One of the things that impressed me when we were interviewing Jean is that in her 15 years as an administrator, she has continued to teach in the classrooms. She has found a way to go in and teach lessons, and so in terms of being very connected with the teachers and the students, she's done a fabulous job. So I also do know that she is moving to Swampscott at the end of June. So she's currently living in Vermont, so it's a big move for her.
Wow.
So the process of interviewing and the committee that we had formed for her was really very good.
Will you just talk about who's on that committee?
I have in previous superintendent's reports.
Sorry.
I don't have them pulled up. In my last one from March 27th, if you want to go online and take a look at it, tells you who's on the committee. The high school assistant principal search, that search was also outlined in my previous superintendent reports. And bless you. And it has yielded 2 finalists. And unfortunately, both of those finalists did not accept the position. So we are back to the drawing board and have reopened the position, and that has been posted, I think last week or the week before. So we will be going through that process again. And
is there any information that you can share about why?
I can share it publicly, and I'll talk further about it. And I've talked to school committee, I've talked to you about it before. The first finalist was demanding a salary that wasn't in our budget, and but would be probably honored in other districts, because we've talked about the fact that our administrators do not make what other administrators make. And the second finalist was was going after a principalship somewhere and didn't want to leave us hanging. So 2 very different reasons, but we are back to the drawing board on that. And yes, I will preemptively answer your question as to whether or not I'm worried that we're going back out at this time of year. It's a difficult time. We've talked at length at these committee meetings about the fact that December, January is the prime time to start looking. And so we'll see what happens, which leads me to my final personnel report under the superintendent's report, and that is that Ms. Jennifer Hunt of the Clark School, the principal, has accepted a position as a principal in Andover Public Schools, and she notified me yesterday. We posted the position yesterday afternoon, and I'm happy to report we already have 10 applicants for that position. So I will be forming an interview committee composed of teachers and staff from the Clark School, parents and administrators as well, and we'll go through the regular process that we do go through. So lots of changes just when we think we're stable. Things occur, and this is a career move for Ms. Hunt, and we wish her nothing but the best in her new endeavor, and wish her well.
the director, sorry, the dean, what do we have?
The dean.
Thank you.
The dean of students.
The dean of students, is that something that you see continuing, or do we have any
Yes.
feedback on that position this year?
She's done fabulously.
I heard that, so I'm just curious, like, where?
Well, we actually had a 2-hour leadership meeting today, and all we talked about was budget for next year. And we talked about the fact that we are going out at a difficult time for an assistant principal, and we talked about Mrs. Colfin, and how well she's done. And do we keep her in that position, or do we elevate her to assistant principal? You know, there's a lot of discussions that are occurring that it's really going to depend on the pool of candidates we get again. But they went through the process that we always go through. They were very excited about the finalists. They were very excited about the candidate they offered the position to. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. So right now, the plan is to keep the dean. But there's a lot of conversations going on still right now. So I don't know how it's going to play out.
Because she was a year-to-year contract position.
I believe she had a 3-year.
Oh, dean?
Yeah, dean had a 3-year.
Oh, okay. I thought that was
Standard
like a year.
administrative 3-year.
Oh,
but,
great, okay.
But there's still ongoing conversations, and we're looking at best practices at high schools our size across the Commonwealth, and we're trying to figure it out, so.
Okay, thank you.
So that is the personnel report under my superintendent's report. And the final item before we get to a presentation is my report to you on the enrollment of non-resident teacher students. And that report is in your folder as well. It is a table, and I have found it. And we just have 4 students, 3 from one family and 1 child from another family. And the Mrs. DeJalonis has 3 children in our district. They are in grade 8, anticipated grade 8, grade 5, and grade 1. And they have been approved yet again. They've been in our district for a few years now. And then Lexi Van Arsdale has a child that joined us last year in kindergarten, which we've recommended that that child, Owen, continue in 1st grade for next year. So we have a total of 4 students from teachers that do not reside in town. And now, the highlight of my report is given by someone else. I would like to welcome and introduce, you all know her, Latoya Ogunbona, our MEDCO director, who has done a fabulous job. Yeah,
Yes,
go
please.
ahead. And is going to give us our annual MEDCO report. Do you need to click up, or?
Sure, why not?
Why do you have the clicker for Latoya? Oh.
Should I just open it up in my email, or? And I also have it up on my laptop too.
Just plug it. I
Thank
didn't
you.
know we were a presentation, but let me just click this. All right, now. I agree. Need email. We just spoke you and incognito. Yeah, just sign out. Absolutely.
Definitely be room for that. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Well, actually, I'll just open it on PowerPoint, right?
Those Google slides. Okay. So slideshow.
Okay.
This is start down.
Start? Or the next one? Okay. Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is LaToya Ogunbona. I'm the director for Swampscott Metco. So I'm going to give a breakdown of this year, our goals that we had, accomplishments and achievements, and the academic report. Thank you. So the METCO staff are METCO staff is comprised of myself and our new METCO academic tutor, Krista Lynch. Krista just started about a month ago. She hit the ground running. She's doing a great job. She comes with a ton of experience from Methuen and Lawrence. Actually, the kids were part of the interview process, so it was an added layer of just my students or our students showing how amazing they are, and they actually were the ones that, you know, constructed the questions that they wanted to ask her, and the other finalists too, and then they actually made the decision to have her come in, and they've been taking a real, you know, liking to her, so it's going very well. But we are on our third tutor this year. So the program is comprised of 53 students. They come from Dorchester, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, Roslindale, Mattapan, and South End. 8 families have 2 or more siblings in Swampscott Public Schools, and 21 students speak 2 or more languages at home. And the cultural backgrounds include Haiti, Sierra Leone, Dominican Republic, Cape Verde, Jamaica, Norway, Somalia, and America. And you can see the numbers too of how many we have in what schools. We have, most of our students are in the high school, and then we have 3 in the elementary school, Stanley, and then the rest are in the middle school. So our program goals are a little bit similar to last year, kind of building upon the success of last year, to reduce incidents on all METCO buses, increase student parent and engagement, to have 50% of our students in the middle school and the high school achieving honor roll and high honors, postgraduate preparation or senior seminar to take the place of tutorial for upperclassmen, and building the METCO Family Friends program, formerly known as the Host Family Program. So the first goal was to reduce incidents on all METCO buses. Last year, we were over or close to 50 incidents, but this year so far, we're at 31. And I'm also seeing a reduction in the severity of incidents. Last year, I was getting incidents about fighting and bullying, but this year it's more of eating on the bus kind of incidents. So, which is a new kind of rule from NRT because of allergies, and because we do have an elevated level of students who do have allergies, airborne. So, and then I think that the lower rate of incidents also is because I have a lot of communication with the bus company and with the monitors and the drivers, and we've had consistent bus monitors and bus drivers for the past 2 years, so it's been going a lot better. There are still some kinks that I wish could be worked out a little faster, but so far I'm satisfied with how the students are doing on the bus. And then the other part of the success, I think, is also keeping students accountable, and then also providing interventions. I think most of the incidents that I see are on the middle school bus, the elementary middle school bus, and oftentimes they report, "I'm bored, I didn't have anything to do." So when the bus monitor reports to me that they're having a hard time, they will get their warning, and then I will go in and I'll start working on a bus plan with them. So the bus plan can include, them bringing a Game Boy from home or a phone from home, or I have a bag that I pack for them with toys and with Mad Libs, with word games that they can play, card games that they can play. And then we kind of do, each student will have, okay, you'll get your warning or you'll get 2 warnings, and the monitor will have a signal with the student so the student knows non-verbally, all right, I'm on the edge. So And then obviously the incident reporting too, I keep track of that. So I think all of that together has helped to reduce incidents, which I know have been a problem in the past. Goal number 2 was to increase student-parent engagement and student and parent engagement. And I think we have done that this year. I have most of our students are playing sports. They're involved with after-school programming. I have some students in chorus and band. And that middle photo is our holiday potluck, which was in December, I'm sorry. And I've had students also participating in youth conferences provided by METCO, but funded through the district. So I'm seeing every month when I go to parent meetings, I'm having way more parents than I have in the past. And I think that's because I have a lot of younger parents, parents of younger students, and they're newer as well. So they're still keeping on with the expectation that I set when I first began. Oh, and the seniors are leaving soon too. So for students involved in clubs and sports, 9% are playing football, 2% are participating in senior project. STEP team, we have 7%. I think what I'm seeing as well is a difference in the types of activities that students are doing. I've been here for 5 years and I've never had a student play lacrosse. I have 2 playing lacrosse this year. I have a lot doing track. I have a lot of students getting into leadership, and SOCA, which is the Students of Color Advisory set up by Mr. Murphy, a Principals Advisory Council. I have students in band. So I'm really seeing a difference in the types of activities that students are doing rather than just sports, which is nice to see. So again, senior powder puff, I had 4 girls this year. STEP, Joe Sylvester, captain, he's leaving, he's a senior, he did a great job. He's also doing senior project, he's my only senior doing senior project. Innovators Club, which is right next door to us, which we continue to work with them, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, football. So it's really been a great year for students who came up from the middle school, as well as new students who came into the district for the first time. I have one girl in particular, she's just been a rock star, and we were a little worried last year at the end of the year that she wouldn't adjust well, but she's come in and she's played a sport every season, and she's on honor roll consistently. So the third goal that I had was for 50% honor roll achievement. And as you can see in the high school, 15 out of 29 for quarter 1, or 51% made honor roll. Quarter 2, 48%, but quarter 3, 51%. And then for middle school, for trimester 1, 28%, and trimester 2, 19%. And I'm attributing the middle school low honor roll or low academic success to not having a consistent tutor. You know, we had Mr. Fitzhugh in the beginning, and then he left, and then the second one came, followed up, and she didn't stay that long. So that turnover really doesn't impact the students, but I think with Krista right now, they are, getting the ball rolling. They have that consistency that they've needed. So I'm confident that that they will be doing better this coming trimester. And with the same for the high school, I think that because they have a little bit more leeway or freedom as far as the bus goes, I can be on them all day about, okay, go see your teachers, and then they can actually follow through with it at the end of the school day. Whereas the middle school, if there is nobody there to supervise, they just go home on the first bus.
Right.
So my fourth goal was to phase out tutorial for seniors and juniors. I decided mid-year that I would just work with the seniors rather than both seniors and juniors, because I was seeing that the seniors needed more attention, and there are 9 of them. So as of today, 100% of our senior students have been accepted to post-secondary institutions. They've all applied for scholarships at Guidance. And and I think the biggest piece or part of this that was very passionate for me was the increased knowledge of college admissions and financial literacy. I found in that first meeting I had with them, and I've been going through this process with them too as I'm getting my master's. So it was kind of this meeting every Wednesday that we would have, and we would share stories about what we knew about college. They would tell me what their experiences were. And a lot of them are first generation students. A lot of them don't know the process. And a lot of them didn't know what a loan was, didn't know the difference between a grant, a loan, subsidized, unsubsidized. So I really worked hard with Guidance and with these 9 students to get them going on these independent living skills, essentially, because they all want to go to college. So in that, I think that in turn produced an increased self-advocacy for them too. Yeah, we would have bi-weekly meetings, and it was just supplementary college processing and support. And I think that now, they're all excited, they're all ready to go. Some of them are more comfortable with going to community college rather than taking out a $60,000 loan. And that's some counseling with parents too, saying, they didn't really get the grades that they needed, but hey, if you do 2 years, 1 year, you can go to another school and save a boatload of money. So so I don't mind necessarily if all of them don't go to 4-year institutions. What I care about is their success in the long run. But they have all been accepted. Sorry, do you have a question?
Do you have the ability to follow up with them after a year or two in community college to kind of keep them on that trajectory?
Yeah, so we've talked about the supports that they can get while they're in school. So programs like TRIO, Upward Bound, and other student clubs like Black Student Union, Latino Student Union. So finding those supports within school, but then also being able to come back and say, hey, Miss O, this is what's going on. And I have other students who have graduated last year. They're contacting me too. So I think that they feel good about being able to come back. And I think that as long as I'm here, as long as they have a consistent director who they know they can go back to, or even at Metco Inc., that they'll be okay. So moving forward, I would like to continue building the Family Friends program. That was the biggest goal of mine this year, but it kind of got pushed to the wayside with the hiring process for a new tutor. But we are having an event on May 18th, which is next Saturday, and that's here in the high school in the cafeteria. It's going to be a brunch, and it is from 12 to 2 o'clock, and it's also on the community flyers page, I believe. I would also like to continue supporting with postgraduate planning and the college process for juniors and seniors. Taking a socio-emotional look at what our students sometimes go through coming here and being immersed in a setting that is different than their own. So I would like to do more Metco groups or lunch bunches. And I would like to have a Metco retreat at the beginning of the year and summer enrichment in Boston starting this summer. Any questions, comments?
What would that summer enrichment look like?
You know what? I haven't planned that all the way out yet, but I'm working with other districts to see what they do, and hopefully I can find something that will work for our students.
I'm going to do a little bragging because I know she won't. Latoya is, as she said, working towards her master's and graduating. And what date is your graduation?
May 16th at 4 p.m.
No, wait, there's more. And she has been selected as the commencement speaker at her graduation. Oh, wow. I have
really
goosebumps, and I'm so incredibly proud to work with you and call you a colleague. You do an outstanding job with our kids and our Metco program, And I know Krista's working out beautifully, but I also know that you're working hard
Thank you.
on your own education, and that's quite an achievement. I don't know if anybody's videotaping it, but I want to see it, so.
Well, we're having, go ahead, I'll take comments from the audience.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Send that out, will you send out an announcement?
Okay.
When is that?
May 16th at
3:45, but yeah, 4 p.m. if you want to see me walking in and stuff.
May 16th, 3:45. Mark it down. I just made the announcement. I'm just so proud. And one of the benefits of taking over some of the responsibilities of the vacant position of Director of Curriculum Instruction is that I got to meet with Latoya again and really reconnected. And it's been a joy.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was back doing what I was meant to do and having an impact on the kids. But I'm really proud that you stand up here every year and give us this information, because to see those students in leadership positions, to me, in the school means we're doing a better job integrating and helping them feel like they belong. So thank you for all you do. I don't want to, squelch anybody else's comments, but I think you all needed to know that.
Is there anything we can do as a school committee to support you by way of either helping find volunteers, donating?
I think that, attending the events that we put on will be great. I think also coming to a parent meeting in Boston.
I was going to actually just ask about that, yeah.
I know Ted is the liaison, the official liaison, so.
We tried to connect.
Yeah, we have, but sometimes I work in a silo, so especially with losing 2 tutors this year,
Right.
I started doing tutoring as well, and Ted would reach out to me and ask.
We'd like to support you in this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think going to a parent meeting in Boston will be a really big show of solidarity and support. And then obviously coming to the event next Saturday so you can meet the parents. I have 19 people signed up so far, so bring a dish. And yeah, we'll network, we'll collaborate, we'll meet one another, and they're really fabulous. So I hope people can come out.
How's the support for the family program?
The Family Friends program. So it's, in my experience, it's been, you sign a query, and then that process just happens with the families. But I'm hoping to structure a little bit more, where on Saturday, parents can meet one another, think about what it could possibly look like, because for every family it looks different, especially as you get older. So a lot of high schoolers, they'll spend the night out here, but a lot of the elementary and middle school parents, that's a no-go for them. But if there's something like a chorus concert, they can have a play date until the chorus concert, and then the parents will connect there, and then, junior, if that's junior, will go home. So it looks different for everybody, and I think fostering or facilitating, rather, that meeting is kind of what I plan to do with the Family Friends program.
Do you have enough participation, like enough families, or?
I have had a lot of families reaching out to me, but I haven't had the opportunity to create an event. So I've sent out this event to those families, and I hope to have more.
Sometimes, I'm speaking from experience, because we're a host family, and a lot of it is just sort of organic, and who the kids are friends with, and but I would say, we love Junior like he's our family, but as much as we can do to kind of participate in a more formal way, happy to do that.
And I'm open to hearing suggestions of what might work for families here. And I know that parents in Boston have been giving me suggestions too. I would love if I could create like an advisory of Swampscott parents and Boston parents. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for from this preliminary event.
When are the parent meetings in Boston? Is it monthly or?
So yep, they're monthly, once a month, the second Tuesday of the month. So it's going to actually be Tuesday on May 14th, and those are held at the Roxbury Boys and Girls Club.
And wasn't our leadership attending this?
We were rotating attendance. We haven't done it as consistently this year, but we were signing up for various administrators to go in at various meetings. We need to get back to that.
Is there a way you can send us the meetings in
yeah.
advance so we can plan?
Yep, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
I think we talked about some of the kids that are down the fields having to go back up to Forest for the pickup.
Yeah.
So is that within the busing contract to have a stop down there? Because that's a lot for the kids to run up the hill to get to the bus. It's a
I've
long
tried-
day as
Down
it
at
is.
Phillips?
I've tried working with the bus company around that, and I've gotten some pushback because they say it's not on their route. But really and truly, I could make that a stop. But it's just hard with consistency. Sometimes kids will go to practices, sometimes they won't. Sometimes I call them into tutorial and say, you're not going to practice, you have to go to tutorial.
Right.
So, but I think that is something that I can bring up to the bus
Is
company
that
again.
NRT?
Yeah,
Ted, do you mean down at Phillips?
Yeah.
Okay.
for football or anything else, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of, there were, not just football, I thought there was a couple others
Field
that,
hockey's down there. And
were down there, and then
Okay.
they have to sprint up the hill to get to the bus, which, I mean, I would think the bus would drive the same route that the kids are going.
Right, yeah, true.
Be nice if some parents could give them a ride too.
Yeah, and that's another thing that, a host, or not a host, sorry, a family friend could do. If your son and another person's son are on the same football team, if you could pick them up and bring them to the high school so they can catch the bus. Yeah, it kind of can look however it needs to look for whoever it needs to be for.
Thank you, LaToya.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're just going to take a 5-minute break. All right, I'm just going to bring us back to order so we can work through this. So that's.
That concludes my superintendent's report.
Okay. Okay, so we're into my part of this. Now I have to get my head on straight. So I know, Ted, that we had just talked, a half hour ago about the proposed meeting dates. I'm going to propose that we put this on hold for a minute or two, or more like a meeting or two. It just feels early in the process, if that's okay.
Sure.
With everybody?
Sure.
Okay. We had a tri-chair meeting shortly after we last met, and Tim Dorsey came for the first time as the new head of the Finance Committee. I'm personally excited to work with him. He has a very kind of straight shooter way about him, and he also has committed to bringing us a number of requests in terms of things that would make it easier for us to be working together with them.
What does that mean? Oh, sorry.
Well, so remember a year and a half ago when we all sat together and they had a whole bunch of requests? They said that they weren't getting what they wanted.
Right.
But that was about as far as they went. They've actually sat down with one another and kind of identified the kinds of things that they're looking for. So, obviously we'll work through that, especially with Ms. Seibert, to figure out what makes sense and what kind of happens naturally and what's in, what's reasonable, and, just to kind of build a better relationship with them. But I want to make sure, Karen, to weave you in a little bit more closely there so that that kind of information isn't just happening at the tri-chair, but that you're woven in.
Okay.
And the other piece of it is just obviously the email that Martha forwarded, that then I think Pam forwarded. You might have gotten a couple versions of it today from Peter regarding next steps for, how do I?
Tuition revolving account?
Yeah, the tuition revolving account.
And the money that needs to be reimbursed this year.
So I'm taking my cues from the superintendent and the business administrator, and so long as they're good, I'm good.
No, I think the email was very clear that the 225 that we need to have transferred from the general government side, they would like some backup, so the Marthas and I discussed today what kind of backup we would provide, and we're
Okay.
working on that. That's not a problem at all to show them why we need that 225. And then moving forward, we were educated about establishing a tuition revolving account and how that impacts the general fund with regard to the regular ed tuition we get from Nahant. And it's not a surprise that we got that email, because the clock is ticking and town meeting's coming and we're not prepared and we haven't had discussions. So it is truly my hope, as Peter mentioned in the email, that this would come before fall town meeting, and we would have the ability to make adjustments to the school operating budget and the general fund with regard to the Nahant tuition money in order to make it work for both sides and establish that revolving account. So that's where we are now. I mean, it's just been really difficult to schedule meetings, and it feels like it's the 11th hour, so I was not at all surprised by his email. I think it makes sense. What I hope doesn't happen again is that, fall town meeting is canceled, but Peter also mentioned that if it is, he recognizes we're going to be back here again going for the money because we're still spending it. So, so it just made a lot of sense. I wasn't caught off guard by that at all, so.
What happens if the town meeting in the fall is canceled?
Then we will be back in the spring the way we are now, asking the Board of Selectmen to make a transfer.
So let me
And
just
with having had a year to prep for it.
Right.
Right. So let me just clarify. So for this current year, the 225 that we
for-
need will be done via
Board
a
of Selectmen.
transfer, not through the warrant and
Correct.
and the tuition.
Correct.
But for next year, we would be
The goal is to,
proactively setting up this account and properly budgeting.
the goal is to do
For
that
the
at fall
following
town
year.
meeting.
Correct.
Right.
Right, okay.
So, but
You have been proactive.
we have talked about it for a
Well,
couple of
yes,
years.
It's been a
Just
while.
put it out there.
Yes.
We have been talking about it for a couple of years. I got past my frustration, and I've been educated now on the, Martha Raymond used the perfect phrase today, and I don't know, I walked away thinking, wow, that was perfect. It's like an uncontrollable factor, but it was even better than that. Something else came in about, having to deal with, it's not just special education tuition, it's all tuition, therefore it complicates the matters, and we have to take additional steps. But we have been talking about it in all fairness for a couple of years now, so there is a piece of me that's frustrated.
And there's been turnover in the
Right,
finance committee,
right.
there's been turnover in our business office, there's been turnover in the chair of the selectmen, so I feel like we're making headway in a broad way, rather than just on specific
Well,
details.
I think I've personally learned that we have some things that are stopping our progress that we have to work out, and really hard discussions that have to be had, and movement that has to be made with operating budgets and general funds, and so we'll get there.
Can I just ask a question? And this is just, so we do have these discussions. I know there's a lot of discussion at Tri-Chair, and then there's emails, obviously, or emailing. And just to bring a little bit more, I'm not gonna say, that's not the right word I'm looking for, but just to bring a little bit more formality. Does the school district, when we hear a request through finance and they say, we want more, we want this, and then there's no there's no follow-up. Like, does our board, do we send an official letter of request to their board to say, okay, this is, just like to formalize the process more, because it really would help with like an action step and saying, because while we've heard that there things have been prepared, and I'm not surprised by this at all either, and I think it's gonna be fine, but I do think you put the energy, the thought, the emails, the attention, the conversations are happening, we all know this, but, I think we're missing a little bit of that, like, formality to just kind of put it out there, like, this is an official thing that we're asking for, and you expect a response in return, and then we move on to our next thing. And I
agree with you,
think we
because
really need to
even at
work
that
on
last
that.
meeting that Tim was at, he said he had a list to give us, and we have yet to see that list.
I think that you bring up
Yes.
a really important piece of the puzzle.
And I think you and I had spoken
Yeah,
about
we
this a
did.
little bit too, and I've just noticed and observed it from what I've heard over the months, and I'm very action-oriented, and I just feel like we're missing a little bit of formality on this. Yeah.
Maybe we,
Long time that don't.
maybe we take minutes at the meeting? I don't know if that's,
I think
In the
we could
spirit
just
of the
follow up.
meeting.
If we just keep our own, I don't want to get into taking minutes because somehow it's gonna,
Yeah,
who's
fall on
taking
you.
them and blah, blah, blah.
me.
I think if we take our own notes and highlight what the follow-up needs to be, then we can put in writing and do these formal requests and say that we.
Because it affects
Right.
So
us
I-
directly,
So
so.
I think that's a good idea, and maybe what we do is we do that follow-up, and everybody on the committee, on our committee is CC'd. So as a, you know.
Yeah, just so we're all aware of it too, because it just feels like months go by and there's discussion and there's an email. And I don't understand how you even remember all of this, because month to month, I'm sure you've had another conversation, but, and you're
And then a year later, when
updating
it's
us.
supposed to happen,
Yeah, it's
everybody
like,
remembers it differently. all that
exactly.
stuff.
So I really
and-
think there
and-
needs to be a
And
little
there's so
more.
much that happens sort of in between, and conversations that happen separately.
But I think it's
but
exhausting to spend more time on something that we've all, you know, it's like, what do you want? How are we gonna get it? And just do it.
But I
So.
think that you're right on about formalizing it a little bit more.
I'd
And
agree.
I think will force us all to work a little bit differently.
A little more efficiently too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
No, I think that's, thank you. So next up is the election of the chair and vice chair, and I'm gonna kind of keep that in with the same as the subcommittee, subcommittee positions and liaisons. I have had only the briefest of discussions with everybody on our team about this topic. And want to say that I am honored to serve as chair. I'm happy to serve as chair, but I also don't feel, you know, I'll be really candid about this. I am not turfy about this. So if there is somebody who wants to take on this role, I'm completely open to that. I'm also completely open to the notion of sort of moving forward with things as they are, and should something change, I don't believe that this has to be something that is defined by this date or this meeting, that, you know, if in July, somebody feels like they have the bandwidth or the desire to throw their hat in the ring, you know, I'm good with that too. So I don't know if you guys want to kind of chime in and share your thoughts about this.
I think for the committees, so this is not me volunteering for anything right this minute, but I will say, for this committee, I do think it's important to mix things up a little bit, because I think that can make us like stagnant a little bit in how we work. And so I do think it might be, I don't know that I'm ready to make some decision tonight either, but I do think we should talk a little bit more about it and our feelings about it, and just maybe, if it's possible, if that's fine, because I know we need to do this in order for graduation requirements and all that stuff.
Diplomas need to be signed.
Yeah,
Well, the
diplomas need to be
so
signed.
the diplomas need to be signed, and the you know, the books,
Warrant.
what was that?
Is it the warrant, the town
No,
warrant?
not the warrant, but that's true, the warrant, but also the graduation day ceremonies, the
Pamphlet, right.
pamphlet, thank you.
The program.
Needs to be done, but I think, I think that's all just a formality. And if we make some changes, that there's not gonna be anybody who's pissed off that I signed the diploma versus you. Except maybe you.
There's not any.
No, there's no name on
townwide-
that.
There's no townwide guidelines that this, I always was under the impression that this had to be done for a reason beyond that. I
Well,
maybe.
I think it's because of elections, and then you just don't, right?
Because the composition of the
Yeah,
board may have
yeah,
changed
it may
as a
change,
result of
exactly.
elections.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just sort of putting it out
Do you
there
have stuff to-
that,
Well, do you think maybe, I mean, would we like to have a sort of a workshop to sit and talk about all those things?
do that.
Maybe
what I-
keep it the same for right now and have a, I mean, not vote on anything tonight, just, because nothing changed, the makeup didn't change, but have a workshop and then come back and
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because you and I were talking about this over the last couple of weeks, and we were thinking, especially because we haven't yet met with our new rep from the MASC, that maybe it's time for us to do a workshop
together.
that we haven't done in a year.
But this seems like something maybe we want to just sit and talk about a little more informally about who's interested in what and who has the time
Yeah,
to
because
do
right
what.
now Ted is like the liaison for everything.
And maybe, yeah, because some of these don't even, K-12 task force doesn't exist anymore, maybe, yeah.
Right, I think we should do that. So we want to schedule a workshop meeting?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Well, that's good, because the things tend to slow down a little bit more as we reach the end of the school year. So maybe we'll look at what's on the agendas and figure out if maybe one of these Wednesday night meetings, we'll just do a workshop.
Okay.
But Gargi, could you reach out to our MASC rep and see what kinds of things they might be able to offer us?
Yeah, I can do that. I don't know who it is.
It's Dorothy Presser.
Oh, it's Dorothy.
Yeah.
Oh, the Linfield?
Yeah.
person?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
She's not, I think she stepped down from the school committee.
Oh.
And she's just MASC
I
now?
think so.
That's
I
too
could
bad
have it wrong.
That's too bad for Linfield.
Doing that for so long.
She was on it for like 17 years.
Yeah,
That's
don't quote me, I'm pretty
But
sure.
that's typical in a lot of school committees. We really are, we're on our way, but that's what high-performing towns have. Okay. Okay, so we'll table this and put it on our agenda at a future,
So we're looking as a target of May or June, though, to meet at least,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think. as soon
so
as
either in 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Yes, but we have to do evaluation. too.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay, well, I have successfully pushed off everything on my to-do list.
Good job.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda then, which is designed to expedite the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the district. The school committee can adopt the entire consent agenda with one motion. At the request of any committee member, any items can be removed and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. Tonight, we have the regular session meetings minutes from April 10th and from April 18th. We have 3 donations to the Swampscott High School Robotics Competition, which is pretty exciting, from Mr. Gelfand, our very own Ms. Wright, and the D. Costanzo family. And last, we have warrants number 1942 and 1944. I will accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussions?
Thank you,
I want to
Suzanne.
thank you,
We already-
Suzanne. That was really
Thank
generous of
everyone
you.
that did stuff, but
So proud of those kids.
They did a fabulous job.
it's pretty unbelievable how
Is
far
that the
they went.
first time they've been entered into the world?
I believe so.
I know, right, isn't that
I
funny?
do want to
What
recognize them.
what was that?
Following them on Twitter,
Yeah.
the robotics team,
Yeah, that was great.
it's like there, like, you don't have to wait for 2 weeks for a meeting.
No,
You
pretty
can-
exciting.
You can
But
see it.
I would like them to come before the
Oh,
committee
God,
and just.
I want to see the
Right.
robot. Can they bring it?
Yeah.
It's
we'll
really
reach out.
impressive because when you read about teams that start, we've only had this club here for not very long. And clubs that are winning are clubs that have been doing this over and over because you accumulate parts from all the robots and you reuse them and stuff. So it's like really great that
We're
we've
doing
been as
this, so-
successful
So fast.
so quickly because it does take a lot of years to accumulate like the stuff you need to build really.
Just the stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of
But
fun.
I do also want to recognize and thank Ms. Seibert for really taking the lead on this in a time where I couldn't take the lead and making it happen for the team, and then with the donations. So really, thank you very much for coordinating it and getting everything done properly and almost overnight, and it was amazing how it came together. Thank you all.
And thank you to Mr. Gelfand.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
Mr. Di Costanzo, Mr. and Mrs. Di
Yes.
Costanzo? My apologies. Okay, if there isn't any other discussion, then I'll take a vote. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And now I will take a motion to adjourn our regular session. For all of you watching, we are going to go into executive session. But first, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion?
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Motion passes. And now I will, what?
Nothing.
And now I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and if the chair so declares. And so this is tonight to talk about collective bargaining with the Swampscott Education Association Union.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Meeting is adjourned to executive session.